In the past couple of videos, we've talked about the ankle strategy and the hip strategy, which you actually see over here on the left side of the screen. We're going to shift gears now and talk about the step strategy and also the suspensory strategy. Now, the step strategy is going to rely on the vestibulospinal reflex, just like the hip strategy, and depending on the nature of the perturbation, it'll probably also rely on the vestibulocolic reflex. Okay? Now, in order to properly elicit a hip strategy, the base of support should be narrow. We hit that to death in the previous video. Also, very important here, the amplitude of the perturbation needs to be small. If the perturbation is too large, a hip strategy and also an ankle strategy will be insufficient to maintain balance. And so the person's going to have to rely on something else, like a step strategy. Hold that in mind. And then the detection of the center of gravity shift is through the vestibular apparatus, and the muscle activation follows a proximal to distal pattern. So with a step strategy, the detection and muscle activation patterns are the same. Now, if you look this up in a textbook, in order to elicit a step strategy, the base of support should be wide, and that's what you should put on a test. However, in practice, it doesn't matter if the base of support is narrow or wide. The only thing that really matters is the amplitude of the perturbation, and it's going to be large to elicit a step strategy. If this amplitude is small, then an ankle strategy or hip strategy will be sufficient. But when this perturbation gets large enough, it starts shifting the center of gravity toward the limits of stability for the person. And once it goes out of the limits of stability of the person, their only option to stay upright and not fall over is to actually take a step. Okay? So perturbation amplitude to elicit a step strategy is going to be large. And as we mentioned, detection of that center of gravity shift is through the vestibular apparatus, and the muscles are going to activate in a proximal to distal pattern. This is Sparta! Now, a couple of notes here on the step strategy. There are certain muscles here that need to be strong in order to, number one, support this position, but then also to push back up into a fully erect standing position. Starting at the hips, we've got the gluteus maximus, the main hip extensor. And in particular, we're thinking about the leg that was used to step forward, which in this case is my right leg. Notice that my right hip, which you can't really see there, but you can see the thigh, that right hip is in hip flexion, okay? So the gluteus maximus initially activates eccentrically to help slow the degree of hip flexion on the right side, but of course, in order to get fully back up to erect standing, it's going to have to activate concentrically, okay? And then we have the gluteus medius and minimus, which are the major hip abductors. And anytime the body is in a stance of any kind, even if it's staggered like this and crouched, they help provide that frontal plane stability. And if they're not active or they're weak, then the thighs tend to buckle inwards, and that increases the risk of falling. And technically they're active on both sides, but they're more active on the right side because I'm actually weight bearing more on the right lower extremity here. So the gluteus medius and minimus are more active on the right, but they also need to be active on the left as well. And then at the right knee here especially, I'm in a crouched position where the knee is actually in a flexed position. So I need strong quads and strong gastrocs. If I had weak quads, I wouldn't be able to control this position very well. I'd be going into extra knee flexion and my knee would buckle down and I'd fall over. I also need the quads concentrically when I push back up into the fully upright position, okay, in addition to the glute max as we talked about before. And then finally we have the gastroc here, which is deceivingly important. We often forget about it, but I had a huge anterior center of gravity shift here because I was kicked by Leonidas. And so I have to stop that anterior center of gravity shift. One way I have to do that is control anterior tibial translation. If I have too much anterior tibial translation, that's going to cause the knee to buckle almost more so than a weak quad would. Okay? And what would cause excessive anterior tibial translation? Weak gastrocs. The main function of the gastrocs here is to activate eccentrically to control that anterior tibial translation, just like they do in mid-stance and terminal stance of gait. This is Sparta! Now we're going to talk about the often forgotten suspensory strategy. So examples of activities where you would see this would be skateboarding, surfing, standing on a vibrating platform, even during an earthquake. Not that anyone would want to be in that situation, but you might see it then. And also in gridiron football, offensive linemen will take a similar position prior to the start of the play because it increases their balance and makes it more difficult for defensive players like defensive linemen and linebackers to knock them over. Why is that? Because the base of support is wide, and it can even be a lot wider than this, almost a sumo stance in some cases. And the person's going to have a crouched posture like you see there. Hip flexion and or knee flexion, normally both. And both of those joint positions actually lower the person's center of gravity closer to the ground. The reason that increases balance is because the closer the center of gravity is to the ground, the harder it is to move it out of the limits of stability. If the center of gravity is very high, it becomes easier to move it out of the limits of stability. So what type of perturbation is likely to elicit a suspensory strategy? Well, it's probably going to be a chronic perturbation, so something lasting a long time. So a chronic oscillation could be horizontal or vertical. What you see here in this clip is a vertical up and down oscillation. Okay. Now, what do we mean by a chronic perturbation? Well, if we think back to ankle, hip, and step strategies, those are actually caused by acute perturbations. Very quick, short-lasting forces like a push, a shove, or a pull. And so a chronic perturbation or chronic oscillation is something that the body has to be able to withstand and maintain balance with for a longer period of time. And so rather than the perturbation being over quickly and being rapid, it's more continuous. And so again, examples like skateboarding and surfing, you're going to be on that board not for half a second, but you have to be on it for quite a while, right? You have to be able to withstand the constant oscillations, whether they're horizontal or vertical. And so one of the ways that you can make that easier is by lowering your center of gravity closer to that surface, closer to the board or to the floor. And you do that by flexing at the hips and the knees. Now, vibration platforms in the clinic are normally used to train things like proprioception, but theoretically, if the vibration was at a high enough amplitude, it could induce somebody to adopt the suspensory strategy to maintain a balance. And really these first three things here, the skateboarding, surfing, the vibration platform, or sitting in an earthquake like this, these would be examples of RPAs where you're having to adapt to a continuously oscillating environment. Okay? But you can also have a suspensory strategy as a conscious cancellation of a step strategy. And an example of that would be an offensive lineman in gridiron football. So they adopt that position before the start of the play. So they're not actually doing it in response to a perturbation. They're doing it in preparation for a perturbation, the perturbation coming from the defense at the start of the play. And so that's less of a reactive postural adjustment. That's actually more of an anticipatory postural adjustment, but it's still a suspensory strategy. It's just different than the first three. Now, if we consider which systems play a role in detection of the perturbation, it depends on the nature of the perturbation and the activity. If we're doing a vibration platform, a lot of it is probably proprioception in the ankles and also certain receptors that are able to detect vibration. And there's also probably some conscious thought that goes into it. Maybe part of it is just the person feels more stable in a suspensory position like this. If we're doing more skateboarding and surfing where there's a lot larger shifts in center of gravity, maybe there's more of a vestibular contribution, but there would still be some proprioception in there as well. And then with an offensive lineman, that's almost purely conscious decision to adopt that position because they're not doing it as a reaction, they're doing it as anticipation of the start of the play. And because the system that detects the perturbation varies, also the order of muscle activation will vary. Okay, so if proprioceptors play more of a role, then the muscles may activate in more of a distal to proximal manner. But if the vestibular system plays more of a role, then they may activate more of a proximal to distal manner. Okay? The actual muscles that will activate are going to be predictable based on the movement and how you need to control it, but keep in mind that you have a variety of systems that play a role here in the suspensory strategy. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and check out my Instagram for cool science and not science stuff.